And theoretically, we should be live. Hello. Yes, lots of activity in the chat already. Hi, everyone. Hi, John. Hey, Aaron. Welcome. Let us know if you can hear us. I'm Dave from Bandzoogle. For those of you that don't know me, I'm going to introduce our very special guest in 1 minute. So I'll let people join the webinar. We already have hundreds of you already here right on time. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. Hello from south of France. Oof.
Oh, bonjour.
That'd be nice. Bonjour. I'm from Montreal. Not quite the same, but know a little bit of French. Calcutta, India. Wow. This is great. All over the world. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for taking the time. Like I said, my name is Dave Cool. I'm from Bandzoogle and the VP of Business Development there. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. You know, this webinar is going to be all about how to generate your own PR. We're trying to think of helpful and useful things for musicians who are obviously very much affected by the pandemic worldwide. And so we've been doing a series of webinars with some very special guests. And just one quick note for those of you who may have to leave early or who want to see the webinar again, we will be sending out a replay link later today, and that's going to have a link to the replay video. It's going to have a link to a special offer from Cyber PR and information on how to get a copy of the slides if you want. So we have a very special guest for this webinar. She's been a cheerleader for indie artists for more than 20 years. She runs Cyber PR Music, which is an artist development, social media, and content strategy firm based in New York City. She's written 4 best-selling books on social media and marketing and crowdfunding, and she's offered to give her time today to present this webinar for everyone. Please welcome a longtime friend of mine and Bandzoogle's Ariel Hyatt. Hey, Ariel.
Hello.
Thanks
so
for
much.
being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I got to put makeup on today. This is good. we're over 70 days locked down here in New York, so it feels very good. I hope everybody out there is staying safe, staying smart, and my heart is with all of us. This is a very strange time. It
is. I just realized that you and I are in our respective epicenters of the pandemic in our countries. I'm in Montreal, which is 7th worst in the world, or at least was as of last week. And New York City obviously was hit very hard. So it's intense times for everyone, and obviously the musician community greatly affected by that. So we'd love that you're here to, you know, while there's this downtime, it's a great opportunity to learn and work on things for when, you know, you can get things back on track, when things go hopefully back to normal soon. So
I have prepared a whirlwind of a presentation. What I'm about to do is cram 3 full days, 3 full sections of my musician's publicity masterclass into a presentation, which I'm going to try to do in half an hour. I have beverages lined up. Dave is going to go and answer questions as they pop in, and then I look really forward to answering your questions after I'm done with the whirlwind. So I'm going to start. This is the DIY Music Publicity Crash Course, how to successfully generate your own PR. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ariel. I run Cyber PR, which is a music strategy company for musicians. I have had the deep pleasure of doing this for 24 years. Before that, I worked at a giant concert promotions company. Before that, I worked at a record label. Before that, I worked at one of the top music PR firms that represented artists such as In Excess, Peter Gabriel, Bob Dylan, Tina Turner, tiny artist who had just been signed called Jeff Buckley. So that is what I brought to my own company when I started. I believe every musician has an important message and dream that will benefit the world, especially now during this really weird and bizarre time. We need music. Music comforts us. Music gives us hope. Music gives me personally everything. So my area of expertise, aside from social media and artist development, has always been publicity. And we've run over 5,000 music PR campaigns since our inception. And I believe that publicity is a very important building block to master. I also believe that artists can do publicity themselves. And I don't love when I find out that artists have spent thousands of dollars to pay for publicity. I don't think that's always a great first step in your journey. Especially now, we should be saving our money as, of course, artists have had a giant diminishment in their salaries with live shows and scheduled gigs getting canceled globally. So I wanted to start with a statistic that is pretty harrowing about music publicity and publicists in general. And that is, for every one journalist, there are 7 publicists. That means that the importance of a publicist, I think, has diminished over the years, especially now with social media and with tools. I'm going to be talking about some of them in this webinar today, where you can actually spin your own publicity wheels very, very quickly. So I've broken this down into 3 steps. The first one is getting ready for publicity. And publicity is very much, to do it successfully, it's all about your preparation. I have seen artists make this mistake where they rush to the starting point and they blast out emails before they've actually really prepared. So I always say you want to measure many times and cut once before you pull the trigger on sending out any pitches to music writers, blogs, podcasts, playlisters, radio stations, TV, anyone that we would deem publicity. And I even think that publicity is also reaching out to other musicians for collaborations, tastemakers, social media tastemakers. You want to make sure that you're fully prepared so that you put your best foot forward. Public relations, publicity, is about relating in a really professional and communicating in a direct way and in a clear way is the number one thing that is going to separate you from the pack. And if you prepare well, that is exactly what you'll be doing. You'll be on point with your communications. And very sadly, it's not only about your music. Writers take into account all these other things now. When I started as a traditional publicist over 25 years ago, I could send out the music and it really didn't matter, what the artist even looked like. I could have like a bunch of dudes in dirty t-shirts standing on their front porch in the photo and I would still get coverage. Of course, now we look at brand, we look at everybody's social media, how many numbers, how many followers, do you have engagement? What is the theme? What is the color? What's your story? And of course, do you have a website? Is it professional? Does it look good? All of these things are things that music journalists are going to keep into consideration. So when you're creating your media pitch, you want to make sure it not only includes basics like genres, comparisons, facts, and your niches. It should also contain feelings and values because they can really make you stand out to the media. And answering questions like, why do you make music? And what does your art bring to the world are 2 ways that we do this at CyberPR. We begin to align the feelings and values into the conversation. So many pitches lack these elements, and they're crucial to get the press to respond. If you just say something like, I make jazz music, or I make pop music, or I make rock music, and you don't explain what you're trying to evoke with feelings, you're really not doing your job as an effective communicator. Another thing to know is there is a giant difference between a bio and a pitch. A bio, which we call a signature story at my agency, is a long format presentation of who you are. And it addresses, of course, a lot of things that have to do with your history, like maybe if you studied music or how you met your band members or highlights in your career, if you won any awards or have any accolades. A signature story is the nugget of that bio. So it's the memorable story thing that people take away after they read your bio. But a pitch is something different. It's a short format, which is designed specifically for the media. And it is tailored. You want to tailor each and every one to suit what you're asking for. So for example, you would pitch a podcaster for an interview very differently than you might pitch a local newspaper for a show coming up. And for this, obviously, you would include your show date, your time, your ticket price, the venue address, who you're opening for, who's opening for you. Maybe there's something special about a local show. That would all go in a local show pitch. That would be wildly inappropriate for a podcast. For a podcast, you want to talk about why you think you'd be perfect for the podcast. If you're going to go on as a guest speaking, you might want to create your pitch around, here's my area of expertise. Or if it's a music podcast, you might want to say, I've listened to many of your podcasts and I think you'll love this track because you played this track, or because I noticed you feature female artists like myself, or something like that. So this is the difference between a bio and a pitch. And in my musicians publicity masterclass, I found that this is a really hard distinction to make, because I think that when you're going to pitch the media, you have this deep desire to throw in everything. Well, I won this important award and I played at South by Southwest, or I have toured. You don't need all of that. For a pitch, you just need to appeal directly to the person that you're pitching. So I just talked about this a little bit. I'm going to dive in a bit more. A pitch should give a sense of what the music sounds like and what feelings are evoked. So we just talked about the little nugget, which can go in the pitch. And it's really, really nice to talk about what emotions you're trying to evoke. Is your music melancholy? Is it happy? Is it peppy? Should you get in your car and drive, really fast? Should you be sad? Are you trying to create a memory, a sense memory with your music? Or should someone dance? Or what should they do when they hear your music? This is what I mean about giving people a sense of what the music sounds like. And why I'm saying this is because a lot of bloggers and music journalists are so busy, they might not listen to the music before they read the pitch. They might read the pitch, and the pitch might be what gets them to click on that music player. So very, very important to talk about feelings that should be evoked. A good trick you can also throw in is to quote the media. So if you have like a really good quote that someone in the media has already said about you, you can add that. Or maybe a fan said something phenomenal, or your mom, if you're kind of have a sense of humor, you want to do something funny. But it's a smart way to frame, as people believe what other people say more than they're going to believe what you say. So part of spinning your own publicity wheel is absolutely to frame it like so-and-so podcaster, so-and-so magazine, so-and-so radio DJ, so-and-so concert promoter thinks that thinks that we are this. That plants a seed in the head of the person that you're pitching. Oh, well, if that reputable person said that, it must be true. Because people always believe what other people say more than they're going to believe what you say. A giant mistake that I see independent musicians make very often and still is they don't quite understand when to use a press release. It is not for when you are releasing an EP or an LP or a single 9 times out of 10. The only reason that you want to write a press release is for a very specific event, like a show, a benefit, a special occasion, or for a very niche market. Now, remember, a genre of music is not a niche, but a charity benefit or a tech-related news piece, like you being featured on a brand new app or that you use some sort of technology, that is what I mean by appealing to a very niche market. And when you're sending your press release, never blast. This is another very sort of antiquated way that publicity used to function. You would write a press release, and I did this for the first several years of my career. I would prepare the press release, and then I would literally blast it out to as many people as I could get. Back then, it was 25 years ago, I had fax software. So I would fax this thing to hundreds of places, and my fax machine would go all night. And then, of course, when we got onto the internet, I used to BCC hundreds of people. And this is a horrific way to guarantee that you will not get your thing seen. So you want to choose carefully and address each writer or calendar editor by name with an intro and give a reason why you're contacting them. So those are the specifics of when and how to use an actual press release. If you're pitching to music bloggers, a press release is just going to piss them off. They don't speak that traditional old school publicity language. A press release would be better for a radio DJ, a television station, someone that actually uses press releases as their currency for communication. Music bloggers, podcasters, independent playlisters. If you sent a playlister a press release, you would just look like you really don't know what the heck you're doing. Media use SoundCloud. This means you need to learn how to use SoundCloud. And Dave Cool actually said to me, please try to explain this to the Bandzoogle community a little bit, and I'm delighted to do that. So you might be using your Bandzoogle player on your website, which is totally great. I love their player. Use it to your heart's content. The media, however, like SoundCloud, because SoundCloud is easily embeddable into music blogs, the code always works, and people do not have to log into SoundCloud if they hit a music blog or a website and there was a player there. Spotify would force the user who presses play to log in. And that is why a lot of music blogs do not use Spotify, because they don't want any barrier to entry. So you want to learn how to use SoundCloud. You want to get familiar with how to share private and unlisted songs and playlists, because you might be pitching something to the media that's not out yet. And obviously you're not going to make it public on SoundCloud for anyone to find it. You want to send a private link. And then on the day that your release comes out, you would set your SoundCloud to public, and then it would be available for everyone to see. So if you've let your SoundCloud languish, go ahead and get back in there, update your bio and all your social media links, and make it look pretty. Bandzoogle has two wonderful blog posts that we often send our artists to reference. The first one is how to easily build an EPK using a template. Obviously, Bandzoogle has plenty of templates in their backend that you can use to add to your website. And I highly recommend that you do this. If the media are looking for an expanded EPK, electronic press kit, they can go right to your website, click on the EPK, they can download music, they can download photographs of you, they can read extensively, they can see videos that you might have embedded there, they can select album artwork, single artwork, so you can put all kinds of wonderful things into your electronic press kit. And the article, The 8 Things That Should Be in Every Band's Electronic Press Kit, is another great article that Dave presented a while ago that you should certainly refer back to, because it will help to guide you in exactly what you should be putting in your EPK. Then when you go to pitch, you can put the link to your EPK at the very bottom of your pitch so that the journalist can get to it and get to it very effectively. Okay, on to step 2, your pitching strategy and your media list preparation. So the first thing you need to do is obviously research. And there are many outlets where you can find music blogs. You can search on Google, you can go to Hype Machine, you can use a tool called Submit Hub, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. There are actually some great music writers on Fiverr and Fluence, also Music Submit, and Bree Noble is a longtime friend of Bandzoogle. She has an amazing music. It's a radio show. It's a podcast. It's called Women of Substance. If you are female or female identifying, absolutely, you should reach out to her and submit your music. It's very hard these days to get the media, especially music blogs, to cover a whole EP or album. That is a very antiquated way that music journalists used to write. unless you see a giant superstar coming out with an entire canon of music, you very rarely are going to see full album reviews. This means you want to pitch one single at a time. There are some enormous benefits to this. The first one is you can talk about the single. You don't have to talk about multiple things. You can focus and hone in on the single. And when you send your pitch, you can very, very much cater it to the single that you are pitching. Because, of course, we're now in a single-based world. Playlists obviously only feature your single, as do most music blogs and music websites and podcasts. It's very rare that you're going to tune into a music podcast and hear them play more than one song by a specific artist. So you definitely want to space your singles out, give yourself plenty of breathing room between pitching them out, and pitch one single at a time. So another big mistake that I see musicians make pretty consistently is they don't really understand the zeitgeist of what is happening on the music blogs. Most large music blogs, like if you think about Drowned in Sound, Stereo Gum, Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, they are covering music that is trendy. And when I say that, I mean hip hop, EDM, genres that are really covered a lot, chill wave. So if you're a musician that is making music that is not trendy or is not what you would find on the biggest music blogs, that is going to make it different for you, not harder in any way. You just have to understand that you can't pitch to most of the big outlets if they're only covering these types of music. You have to be very careful to do your research and find what is going to be covering your genre. So if you make smooth jazz or you make folk music that's not like indie folk, it's totally fine. You just want to be really careful that you understand the reason why you might not be getting covered on some of these larger blogs is, frankly, these blogs might not be covering the type of music that you create. Again, that's okay. You just need to find the right outlets when you're researching. So I've talked a lot and mentioned music blogs, blogs. Radio pitching, same way. You want to research. I suggest local stations or NPR, that's National Public Radio here in the US. They have affiliates in almost every city and state, so they're great targets. Also, I recommend specialty shows. So if you make bluegrass music, maybe you find a specialty show that's featuring bluegrass or jam music or jazz music or female rock music. There's specialty shows all across the country. These are great when you're doing your research to hone in on. I also think that commercial radio, if you're an independent musician, is not a good use of your time or your energy or your money. For the most part, you're not going to get major commercial plays. If you've already been on the radio, you want to include where you've gotten airplay. And if you have any feedback from any radio DJs, radio programmers, station managers, you want to include a quote from one of them in your pitch. Absolutely. Now, if you have a music video that you're pitching, you want to include the following in your pitch. Tell the story of the video, explain what it's about, what your intention is in making the video. Is there a story that you kind of want them to understand? What is this video actually doing and saying? Did someone direct it, produce it? Did someone star in it that's of note? Are there any people that maybe of the area, if it's a local pitch? We worked with an artist a couple of years ago named Sarah Sharp, and she's from Austin, Texas. And she collaborated with a lot of people from Austin who are very well known in Austin. So we sent it to the we sent it to the Austin Chronicle, and they debuted it on their website. So because we had this very strong video angle, they were delighted to debut the video. And you also want to say how long the video will be so the writer knows what to expect. In this 2-minute video, you'll see something like that. So we follow something here at Cyber PR when we are pitching, and we call it the 1, 2, 3 strike and you're out, just like American baseball. You must follow up 3 times. Once will not do it. Most musicians never follow up at all. They give up. They think, that their pitch just totally got lost in the ether, and it might have. So you want to go back 3 times before you give up and move on. That lovely saying, third time's a charm. It could very well happen for you if you persist. Okay, we are on to step 3. This is your PR timeline and sharing your PR successes. So for your timeline, you need to understand that you have to give yourself more lead time than you would believe you might. So for long lead press, which are magazines, they need 3 months in advance. Most press now prints in a different country. And so you want to make sure that you're not calling up a big glossy magazine, 2 weeks before it comes out the next month. That magazine is already in print and sitting in the warehouses ready for distribution. Monthly newspapers, you want to give them between 6 and 8 weeks if you're trying to get, especially a local show listing. You want to make sure that you're getting out ahead, and the music editor at the monthly newspaper definitely likes to know what to put in at least 2 episodes, 2 issues in advance. And then for daily papers, even for the calendar listing, you want to give the calendar editors 3 weeks notice. They begin to lay out for editorial several weeks in advance. And if you're looking for a music blog premiere or a video premiere, you also want to reach out to all the music blogs or the video website at least 3 to 4 weeks in advance, because they will be filling up their premiere schedule quite fast. After you get PR, you want to make sure that you're visualizing it. So we did that here. You can see in the top left, we got several wonderful pull quotes for our artist Giassi. And you can see we got Audio Fuzz and Beehive Candy and Born Music Online. And we put that together in one tile. Down in the corner here for one of our artists, we got a nice standout quote from EthnoCloud, and we visualized Polar Waves' lovely quote. And then I also wanted to point out that the same tools that you use maybe to create tiles for yourself on your socials, you can definitely use that to visualize your PR. It is so hard to get PR. When you get it, you want to show off those features. I also recommend that you tag the different publications that you get included in, so that you're giving them a shout out on your own socials. Remember what I said earlier about journalists care very, very deeply about what is your following. Do you care enough to give them a follow, to tag them in posts? This is a very important part of your PR strategy overall. After you visualize, you want to leverage your PR. So you want to use the PR that you generate to show that you're PR worthy. Why? Because PR begets PR. So if you show, I've already gotten some, that might actually let promoters know that you're going to be working to get PR. It's going to let managers know that you're working to spin your own publicity wheels. People in the music industry love proactive musicians. And this is a feather in your cap. If you can approach anyone at a label, a manager, anything you're trying to get, a booking agent, a promoter, you can say, I work really hard to get the maximum amount of PR for myself. I will do that if you book me. And I will mention and tag all of those people on social sites. So this is part of the strategy. I have worked for so many artists. We've gotten them this beautiful PR and they don't leverage it. They don't do anything with it. Why would you take the time to work so hard to get all of these accolades if you're not going to visualize and leverage? So these are the steps to take after your hard wins come to you. So everything I just went through is part of the Cyber PR free music publicity masterclass. It's everything you need to succeed at your own DIY PR. I just took us through the highlights. There are many nuances. And in this class, I have 13 action sheets that you can download. I'll help you figure out the best pitches. I'll help you hone in on your signature story. I will show you exactly how to find music blogs and give you exact links of where you can find ones for your specific niche and genre. Plus, I will even give you feedback on your pitches. It's totally free to sign up. Just come over to Cyber PR Music, and Bandzoogle will also send out an email with the link directly to get into the music publicity class. I did it. 27 minutes. and the lights
awesome.
went off, so that was a thing. There you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that because it's small in the corner. I didn't realize the lights went off. That's too funny. Wow. That was awesome, Ariel. Thank you so much. There's tons of chatter. People are loving it. A couple of clerical things before we get to some questions. Obviously, to take advantage of the free masterclass, I pinned a comment at the top of the chat. The link will go out in the. We're going to send out the replay video later this afternoon, so you have a link to rewatch the webinar. There's going to be a link to the masterclass, and there'll be an email address where you can get a copy of the slides. So that's been very common. People are coming in and out, which is totally understandable. So just so everyone knows, you'll get an email in about 3 hours ish, 3 to 4 hours with all that information. So we'll take some questions. I already have a few that came up as you were giving the presentation. So I'll start with those. And then if people have questions, just post them in the chat and I'll grab them and ask Ariel if she's got the answer. So first question, if your single is already out, is it too late to start pitching? Did you already miss the window?
I don't think so. And we actually get hired very often to go back and see what we can do. So a couple of things about that. If the single is already out and it's been like years, you might want to consider pulling it down and then re-releasing it on, I don't know if you work with CD Baby or TuneCore or DistroKid, they're used to this is normal, this happens. That is one way of refreshing, especially if you're going to be using a tool like Submit Hub. The playlisters care about how new something is. Now, if it's only a couple of months old, I think you do have about a 4 to 6 month window where it's absolutely okay to say our most recent single or a single that we put out recently, or you can totally say that, especially if the single is topical. So this is another approach that you can take. There are thousands of days, calendar days, like Women's History Month. There's Autism National Awareness Month. There's Clean Your Stapler Day. There's literally a day for everything that you can find. And so you might want to try to find, if you have a topic in your music that you're trying to showcase, you might want to find some dates around that. Like if you're Irish, maybe St. Patrick's Day is a day to promote an Irish jig. Or if you're Jewish and you've written something about in remembrance, maybe the Holocaust Remembrance Week is a day to bring that track back out. So there's things that you can do to kind of recast a song that's already out and breathe new life into it. And it is never too late. You just, again, want to make sure that your pitch is framing why that song is relevant right now.
Awesome. Fantastic. So kind of related to that, when you're between album cycles as an artist, like, is PR still relevant? Should you still be looking to reach out to the media at all in blogs and podcasts? If you're between albums, let's say your album's been out for a while and you're thinking about doing another album. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, or if you should really stick to more, like, I think you mentioned, like, kind of the album itself is not so much what media look for.
Yeah, I do. I think if you're really between album cycles or EP cycles and you take a lot of time between, it could seem a little weird. Like, here's something that's a year old you're trying to pitch. So at that point, I think the thing that you should strategize on and the thing that you should be focusing your time and attention on is your social media, building your newsletter list, tweaking your website, making sure that you look okay when you're Googled, and maybe take a step back from your publicity. To go all guns blazing publicity all the time, especially with things that are a little bit old, might not be the best strategy. But again, if you are feeling like you had a single and it meant a lot to you and you hired a crappy PR firm and didn't get what you wanted, or you tried and you didn't know a good strategy and you didn't land it, one other thing that you could do would be re-record your song, make it acoustic, make it a collaboration, do it on Instagram Live. I don't know, figure out something that's a sort of a new way of doing it. And then you can re-release that. But if you are like really between things, you don't need to always be pushing for publicity. It does have cycles.
Yeah, awesome. So there's a couple of very specific questions. So someone wants to get an example of a pitch. Another person wants an example of an effective follow-up message. Are these things that would be in your master class that you'll go more?
Yeah. So there's actually a ton of pitches that my agency has written that you can see with visual representations in the class. So it's free. Jump on in and you can download those actual pitch sheets. And then I spend in part 3 of the masterclass, it's actually me giving, it was a live class that I taught last year, and I'm actually reading people's pitches and going through it with them and tweaking it and fixing it. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that part of it really felt good for people, that they could understand, oh, this is how I would tweak this. So definitely get in the class, and I'm delighted to share those examples of pitches with you. And yes, we do, those pitches are actually exactly what we said to the media. And Sarah Sharp, that artist I mentioned from Austin, would be an example of like a local Austin pitch. And then we have some more general pitches.
Awesome. And that free masterclass, there's no set deadline to register? Nope. No, okay.
It's like Netflix. You can binge it, you can leave it. But yes, you can take it at your leisure.
Awesome. So somebody was wondering, in terms of following up, is it following up 3 times in addition to the initial pitch, or 3 times total? So the pitch plus a couple of follow-ups.
I would do the pitch plus a couple of follow-ups. And what, this is so tempting to do this because it's so personal. It's your music. You're just trying to get it out there, and it sucks when people don't write you back. Do not do the thing that so many of us want to do, which is like, hi, I'm following up again. This is the second time. You know, you want to say it nicely. Understand that a lot of these journalists are just so overwhelmed. And they might have seen it and just ignored it for whatever reason. So you want to re-hone the pitch and come back with, I was so excited to hear from you. I know you're probably so busy. This is why I reached out initially. I'm trying again. You know, be nice about it. Persistence pays.
Absolutely. I used to book a couple of venues up here in Montreal, and, you know, I understood, after working that job, I understood how busy bookers are at venues, and understand that you can't respond to everybody. So don't be offended, because if you politely follow up, you develop a relationship eventually with those bookers. It really pays to be patient and polite.
When I was a publicist, I actually loved the journalists that would just tell me, no, this is not for me, taking a pass, because then I could just like cross it off my list and move on. So this is one reason why I really do like Music Submit and Submit Hub, because they actually, you pay $1 to submit to the blogs through these tools, but they are obligated when you pay that $1 to send you feedback. So you're going to get an answer one way or the other. And I think that's, I mean, the answers, some of them are kind of crappy and they're like cut and pasted. So don't go and reproduce your song if someone says like, I didn't like the production, but it is really nice to hear feedback, which is why I do like using those tools.
Yeah, awesome. Mike just made a great point in the chat saying that a lot of bloggers do it as a hobby. It's their passion. And so, you know, they got a full-time gig, you know, they can't respond to everyone. So
exactly. They're not like paid journalists at Rolling Stone. You know, they're literally people with day jobs who love music. And, you know, there's a lot of lists. They get their name. My name got on some crazy, this company posts blog, you know, guest blog posts, because we post like when Dave writes something, but we don't post like random people. Yeah. 10 times a week, I get like these horrific, like, hey, and it's like, some of it has nothing to do with music. So yes, just be really mindful. And you're right. It's not everyone getting paid to do this. That's right.
Exactly. Speaking of following up, so when you're following up with, I'm answering the question as I read it. So this person's asking what the ideal time is to wait between follow-ups. Is it days? Is it weeks? I guess it might depend on if it's a blog, a podcast, a newspaper.
Yeah, it might depend. So of course, if it's like a calendar listing and you have an event coming up, not that any of us have any events coming up ever. No, if you have a live stream coming up, you might want to say, hey, event is coming up July 1st. Just want to make sure you see this. So that would be one thing. I would not wait weeks. I would wait maybe a week at the very most. If you could wait like 3 to 4 business days, that should be enough. I find if you wait too many weeks, it's like totally out of sight, out of mind, and it's rattling to the journalist.
Yeah. That's awesome. So when pitching to music blogs, if you're looking to get a single or a video premiered, should you basically, let's say you've done the research, you know the blogs are going to go after to try to get premiere. Do you send that pitch email to all the blogs on your list, or do you start with one, wait to get an answer, and then move on from there? Because you might find yourself with like 2 blogs saying they're going to premiere a video, and then you... Yeah.
And then you piss off the one blog, and then they'll never work with you again. So this is why it really does take a lot of strategy for premiere pitching. And to be honest, like, it's really hard to premiere pitch, especially for the larger music blogs. If you are just building, and when I say just building, I mean, if you have fewer than 10,000 followers on any social channel, these music blogs are looking to spike their own numbers using your premiere. There's very little, we're doing you a favor. I mean, unless like Prince played on your single or something fabulous has gone on, or you've got like a guest that's massive. Mostly smaller emerging artists will not get the larger premieres, and you definitely want to be really careful. So yes, you want to plan your premiere, reach out to one person at a time. That is when it's okay to follow up like every other day. Like, hey, just want to make sure you saw this. If this premiere is not for you, I'd love to send it to someone else. But yes, premiere pitching takes time, and it's not for the meek, and you absolutely want to. I would not send it out to more than 1-2 people at the most at one time.
Yeah, that's great. One quick thing I can answer. Someone asked, because you're talking about the importance of SoundCloud when pitching media, they asked, can they also have their music on Spotify and SoundCloud? And the answer is yes, you can have your music everywhere.
You can and you should. I mean, that journalist might use Spotify in their car, on their smartphone, or at home connected to their personal player, whatever. So definitely you want to have your music available everywhere, but specifically for the media, a SoundCloud link where they can embed your music is what I'm after.
Awesome. Someone's wondering, just roughly speaking, like when you're contacting a blog or media outlet, how long should the email be? Should you really keep it short? Can you go into a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So I mean, generally keep it short. Keep it really short. Imagine, these people are getting hundreds a day. I would say no more than 5 or 6 sentences at the most. Plus, you want to attach. You don't ever, of course, attach an MP3. You want to put a link, and you want to not put any attachments to clog up their inbox. If, of course, it is a topical thing and there's a real reason to do this, you can make it a bit longer. Like, it's Women's History Month. Here is a story of why I wrote this song, and if it just takes 10 sentences to tell the story of why this pitch is appropriate and why you're sending it specifically to this journalist, then by all means, you should make your pitch a little bit longer. But like, to then go and like copy and paste your entire bio, I mean, that is like very bad. That is why you have an EPK on your Bandzoogle site. You can put a link there. The journalists can click there. They can read everything you did when you were 3 years old and everything else and about all the band members. And that's what's appropriate for your website. So that's fine to send them there if they want more information.
Apologize, everyone watching. Thanks, Olive. I was typing furiously in the chat, and someone's like, your laptop is wiggling because it's on a stand. So sorry about that. I was just letting everyone know.
Like getting seasick.
If you have any questions for Ariel, post them now. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes. Just trying to find some other ones here. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to go into specifics, but I think it's probably better to just take the masterclass is free. There's no, so you can dive into that detailed info there. Let's see. Someone was wondering, just getting started, like locating music blogs. You named a few resources in the slides, I believe.
I did.
Yeah. Okay. So I forget who asked that question, but in terms of doing your initial research, you can. We're going to supply an email address in the follow-up email with the replay link. You can email Cyber PR to get a copy of the slides, and all the resources to find and do your initial research for music blogs is in there. So.
But I would say if you're just starting out, it's really frustrating. Like music bloggers, they don't want to be found. Like most of them are not like, hey, here's my email address. Every independent artist in the world, please send me more email. That is not what they want. So paying a couple of dollars to use Music Submit, to use Submit Hub is not a bad idea, because what you're doing is you're taking out all the guesswork. You're literally pressing a button and you're submitting your pitch and all of the appropriate links formatted in the correct way to the right music blogs. So I recommend that you pay $50 and you can do 25 pitches. So it's totally worth it. And you'd get 25 answers. So those are two that I would start with. Of course, good old Google searching will absolutely help you. And Hype Machine is another place where I love looking for music blogs.
Nice. Here's a great question. So do low numbers, because SoundCloud shows the play counts, do low numbers on a SoundCloud player influence whether a blogger could be interested in covering you?
Absolutely not, because you're sending out a new track. You're probably sending out a track that's private if you're pre-pitching something that's not out yet. So if there's only 15 plays or 25 plays, that means you've sent it to 25 people to listen to. If you're saying like you can, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, unless you're trying to get like a super high profile like blog that really only features like giant SoundCloud numbers, it's totally fine to have low numbers on your SoundCloud. You just want to have numbers somewhere. So like if you have no numbers on Spotify at all for any of your past tracks, that is when a journalist might begin to think, well, this person maybe isn't ready because they don't have as much traction as I would like to see.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that. Like especially if you're looking for a song premiere or something like that, you're not going to have a lot of plays on SoundCloud players. Same thing with a video.
And it's really weird. Like sometimes people send us something to review and they're like, might you want to do publicity for this? I'm like, but this has 3,000 plays. And then they'll say something like, well, it's been out for a couple of years, but we pulled it down, whatever. So, I mean, if there's a story behind why, but always re-upload onto your SoundCloud, set it to private. If there's only a few plays, not a problem.
Yeah. Philip wants to know, so he knows there's like a no email attachment rule, generally speaking. So is it better to create a separate hidden page on your website for PR, or just attach a PDF with additional info and links in the body of your email?
The former. So first of all, why are you hiding a PR page? Why? Everything is PR now. People tweet, people Facebook, people love making Instagram tiles about things they love. Why would you want to hide your photos and your album art? And I mean, unless of course it's not out yet, then yes, secret page. But make an EPK that is visible to your fans, to your journalists. That is not a bad strategy at all. Because the worst thing that could happen, and I've seen this happen so many times, my artists got really precious about, well, I don't want everyone to see my virtual press kit or whatever. And then the journalist was busy. They forgot where the link was and the password protected, whatever. And then they went and they Googled the artist and they found an unflattering picture with old bandmates that aren't even in the band anymore. They found like a photo that like a random fan took that ended up on a MySpace page. And then they put that in the publication. And that sucks. So you want to Google yourself and what photos of you or your band come up. Also, when you go and you upload your photographs to your EPK, make sure that you name them with your name of your artist, name of the band, because I can't tell you how many times a busy journalist is going to look to lay something up. And if your photograph is 86593 tilde tilde space, 6,000 letters long, they're never going to find your photo and they're going to move on to the next artist. So make sure you're well documented, you're Googleable, and that your photos are findable on your website, not in a magic secret password protected way.
Yeah, we advise that too. I gave a webinar on EPKs earlier this year, I think. So many webinars lately. But in terms of password protection, we're like, you know what, it's better to have it out there. You don't want to force them to take the extra step where they can't find the information, so they move on to the next artist. Make it available, publicly available for you there. Zach has a great question, which I think maybe a lot of musicians feel the same way. He's like, I'm a musician. I don't want to do all this. Can I just hire you?
Yes, because I need to buy a new light. So please hire me. Of course you can. Tons of information about how you can do that at cyberpronmusic.com. There's a whole page on our publicity campaigns.
Yeah, awesome. Any other last questions before we let Ariel go back into the darkness?
My husband is a lighting designer. He's gonna have a heart attack. He's gonna be like, really?
Too funny. Just a reminder, there's more questions. I think people like tuning in when they can. Replay link being sent out in about 3 hours. It's going to have a link to the replay video, information how to get a copy of the slides, and a link to the free music publicity masterclass that Cyber PR and Ariel are offering. So you'll get that in about 3 hours time. I think we can wrap up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope that was helpful. Ariel Hyatt, thank you so much for taking your time to do this for us. It's great to see you. I learned tons, and this is, I look at this stuff all the time, and I learned quite a few things today, so this was great. Thanks, everyone. We'll have more webinars this summer, and we'll be in touch by email this afternoon with all that information. And stay safe, stay well. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for having me.